Throughout history, the term writer has been synonymous for plenty of things, whether that's through the case of storytelling, books, or even just the idea of writing essays. There's something so pivotal about writing that honestly has shaped many of us the way our minds think, and in particular, to be more concise and considerate of the world around us. With that said, writing, while easy within the process of making it, tends to and can be a struggle. I noticed this within myself in the past few months of writing and working on my upcoming novel. I've noticed that there's plenty of things I personally struggled with that I feel the need to address within this video. With this in mind, I'm going to talk about how to improve as a writer to not only make sure you as an upcoming writer or someone working on a big project can succeed, but also be more considerate of everything you do within the words you write alone. Hello, if you don't know me, I'm Arnel Arcega. I'm one of the healthiest writers you will ever meet, and as an author, writer, and motivator, I make sure people stay educated within the path of reading and writing. If you want personal help, check out my Instagram down below, but regardless, let's get into this topic. Back in August of 2025, one of my biggest new goals was to work on my upcoming novel. The third project of mine, titled The Winning Complex, is one that I've been working on for several years at this point. It was one of the first ever ideas of a book that I've ever thought about, and it's one that I've been expanding on more and more with each passing day. With how the writing process is, and this being my third time around, it should be easy to know how well you can write a book. I've spent the past 7 months of 2025 working on my second book, so this third one shouldn't be a struggle. And then I started working on it. The difference between making a good book and how long the process is all about your own connectivity to the process. We think of books in a lot of different ways. We think about how much time we read about them, how much energy we put into it, in particular, how long certain segments are. We hate those really long segments that feel like textbooks and essays. What we love is just passion and creativity. With that in mind, there is a case of storytelling within all types of writing. This is important to layer on, especially when talking about writer's block, simply because there's a lot of things many writers like yourself struggle with, and one of the most notable ones is grammatic simplicity. Grammatic simplicity is the easiest term I can think of when it comes to my own struggles as a writer. Ever since I started this channel, I've had a huge emphasis on the technical aspect of talking rather than just simply saying words. What I mean is I keep on using overly huge words and not the simple kind. I've always emphasized, even on my board right here, complex does not equal good. And this is an important fact, especially now that I've been taking in more reading to see what it takes to be an author. One of my favorite books I've read in the past week alone is Writing Tools. This book single-handedly changed my view of writing within the first 40 pages. It's crazy how within only 16 tools on writing, I've not only written it all down in my journal right over here, but I've also self-diagnosed and explained each and every one of them through the simple term of just reading. The more we look into grammatic structure, it helps us with our desire to write more. Let's think about it. Why do we have writer's block in the first place? Writer's block is a term that is coined due to the fact that we won't write. It sounds like sheer laziness or burnout, but there is a key difference between both. Laziness is the idea of not being disciplined enough to go do the work, and burnout is when you're too tired to physically put in more work. Within that space, writer's block can be both. Writer's block is both the laziness within the work as well as the burnout that comes with it. In my video talking about how to improve and even sell your book better, I talk about habits that will improve upon your writing. One of the most notable ones is the idea of 2 hours of working. What I mean is we only need to work on our book for 1 to 2 hours to make it more simple. When we think of grammatic simplicity, it's all about effectively using those 2 hours for the better. Let me explain. One of the most notable tools within the Writing Tools book is all about the idea of preferring the simple over technical. Again, this is all about illustrating that complex does not equal good, but in the case of Grammatic Simplicity, it's all about what you can do. We talked about burnout and laziness, but how can we make it so that we're not burning out within this 2-hour margin without being too lazy in the work? Let's start with the easy things you know about writing: nouns, verbs, and adjectives. These are all the easiest parts within overlaying a sentence. For instance, I jumped really high on top of the tall building uses a noun in the building and me, as well as a verb in jumping and an adjective in the tall. With this in mind, it's a simple, well-diverse sentence that goes straight to the point. And that's what I want you to understand within any piece of writing. What is your purpose for said writing? What is your purpose for illustrating something that's well effective but also a meaningful piece of literature? With how we can simplify a lot of our writing and a lot of our stories in general, whether that's through a book like what I'm doing here or an essay, we can use this information to tell one point to the next. No matter what kind of writing you are doing, you're trying to persuade an audience from one idea to the other without losing their content. It's all about overlaying ideas on top of one another. And this is where writer's block tends to get in the way of that. We think of writer's block as this huge blockage in our minds. It's this huge point that will honestly shape our perspective. But this is the point I want you to think about, especially when looking into perspective as a whole. What's stopping you from writing? What's stopping you from doing the habit to make a story that you truly, truly want to tell? In my case, I've been working on my 3rd novel for over a month now. And in that period, I've written over 100 pages. It may sound like a lot, but there's plenty of parts wrong with it. But that's okay. I use the time to not only just write, but also know that there will be bad pieces that I simply need to improve on. One of those is the idea of just making more. The more we write, the more effective we get at it. And that as a whole will shape and challenge our beliefs in writing. How we can challenge this belief is all about perspective. Even so, there is one point of perspective that I want to touch on that many writers I've encountered will honestly argue with, and that is AI writing. AI writing is so common, especially with someone like me who still goes to classes to this day, who still interacts with people within a school environment. With AI writing, it honestly challenges the way a lot of literature will be shaped moving forward. I've told a whole video about screwing with AI and to avoid it at all means. But there is a new perspective I found ever since I started reading writing tools. When we view books, we view it as this habit to improve on. I love gushing about it because it's such a beautiful experience to not only read more, but to also cultivate a greater emphasis of books. But when it comes to writing, there's a huge difference that I want you to think about. Writing, when we think of it as a passion, something that will effectively change the world, is something that needs to be dived into, taken shorthandedly, and be used for granted. What I mean is writing is an art. I know much about arts. I know that there's a huge difference between what's good and what's bad. And when it comes to AI, that is not art. It's easy to sell, yes, but in the case of just making something well great and artificially well for your own sakes, I'm telling you, AI writing is not worth it. When you can use it for grammar and how well we can see that perspective, that tends to shape our minds just a little bit better. For your mind as a writer, you think of AI writing as something that will destroy all writing, when in all actuality, have you seen AI writing? It's so easy to detect whether it's real or not. It's so easy to know what's written by a genuine human being and what's written by a machine. It's so much easier than you think, and all you have to do is test this out for yourself. This is where I'd say this is the action step. Get a piece of paper and type into a prompt. Type into ChatGPT or something like that to illustrate an idea. Tell it to write a paragraph out of your own novel or essay, and then write the same idea but for your own words. I'm telling you, within this 5-minute stretch of just having one paragraph written by AI and another paragraph written by you, there is a huge difference that will not only illustrate how well we can think of AI, but will also make us think better of our own writing. Writer's block is all about perception. It's all about perspective and how well we can dissect our own minds. And with that in mind, I do want you to think about how well we can change the views around us. AI writing challenges us and it puts us down in our progress of writing. But when we think of grammatic simplicity, as well as our own writing and creative tools, once we see the huge difference between both, there will never be another time we think AI writing will challenge us. We will write more effectively, and this will fuel us to make more art. I did this experiment a while ago with my own book, and I noticed just how different AI writing is to my own. And that stunts my own writer's block, yes, but it also makes me more passionate to write more now than ever before. And with that idea perspective, I want to challenge you with one final question. Why do you think of yourself so low? As a writer, why do you challenge yourself to be someone a lot less capable than you actively are? When I started writing my third novel, I realized that something needed to change. I needed to go outside more, go out and do something that with my time that wasn't all about writing. There's a reason why I emphasize on the 2-hour margin, because I want you to nurture your own nature. A couple weeks ago, I did this experiment in which I just went out and talked with as much people as I can at a park. I became friends with this elderly couple, this young little child here and there, and I also made sure to not only give away a couple things, but I kind of felt like Santa Claus, you know? I don't know what it was, but this moment of time where I just stepped away from the world I was creating allowed me to write better. It's a weird, convoluted process, but this is all about the point I'm trying to illustrate with inferiority. More specifically, your own inferiority complex. As I said earlier, writer's block, it's all about the between points of burnout and laziness. When we think of laziness, we tend to just think of it as a point where we're not working hard enough. When we think of burnout, we use it as an excuse to not work hard enough. What I want you to do, especially why I keep emphasizing the 2-hour margin, is to go out and make experiences to prove that what you can write is effective. You don't need to gaslight yourself. Don't be disillusioned by something that isn't there. You can't, I'm gonna be straight up honest, you can't tell yourself that I'm a fantastic writer. You have to believe that. And with that in mind, this is where another action step comes in. Within this week, from this video is posted, I need you to go out and have an experience. Go out around the small area you're going to. It may sound risky, whether you are a guy or a girl, but I'm telling you, get those experiences around you. Look at the trees, look at nature. Sometimes all it takes is to feel some plants. I don't know how else I can explain this better, but it's all about just getting somewhere done. Get something so beautiful and grandiose within your own small life so you could tell a greater story. It's all about perspective, and the way you view yourself is low. What we need to do is both get you to work more as well as get the experiences that you desire. It's all about improving oneself, and why I value nurturing your nature so much so that I've actively added it to this point right over here. With all that in mind, there is one final advice I want to give out for someone who's still struggling with writer's block, for someone who didn't understand any of the previous points of just working a small amount of hours and being simple within your own grammar. The final tip I want to illustrate with writer's block is to read to write better. Let me explain. When we think of writer's block, again, we think of it as this huge point of contention. It's something a lot of tense and conflict-driven ideas, all because we can't write. But that's far from the truth. If you did the AI example I explained earlier, as well as cultivate more experiences within the real world, you have more periods in which you can write better. Writing better is just an art that takes a while. And what I need you to do, not just to write better, is to also read better. Reading books, as I've explained earlier, is all about the process of making more. Testing our mind and slowing down in a fast-driven world. Reading books is all about getting us to the point where we are now. As you can see on my stack here, this is every book I've read in 2025. By the end of this year, I'm expecting this stack to go up here simply because I've been reading so much more. This has made my writing better, not because I'm comparing the text, rather I'm using what the author uses, the grammatic simplicity as well as how well they tell their stories, to be more effective in my writing. It's all about getting something more. And that's why I suggest stuff like writing tools or any kind of writing advice books. They're all there to help you. And my goal as the influencer I am is to elevate you to the point where you can get this information easily without having too much on your plate. When you read more, no matter what kind of book you can, even children's book for God's sake, when you read this amount of literature, this easily digestible feed, then you will have more information on your plate. The more information on your plate, the better. As one of my favorite quotes reads, "The end of a story is like a good meal. We are sated, but it doesn't mean we'll never get hungry again." This is how we should view writer's block, in the fact that we have more on our plates. Even if you are struggling to write, you have the ability to write no matter who's telling you what. And it's all about the matter of perspective. When you get down to a better perspective, improving oneself by nurturing your nature, as well as doing more within your life, whether it's the 2-hour work in between your writing, as well as improving your own inferiority complex. This will greatly improve your writing, no matter how deep in the hole you go. If you enjoyed today's video, I hope you can check out more so I can personally help you with your own writing assignments. Whether that's through essays or novels, I'm here to improve books, reading, and make sure that you stay on this right path. If you enjoyed what you see, check out my books in the top link of the description, as well as my Instagram so I can personally help you with your writing. Until next time, keep on reading, keep on writing, and take care.